comes to the movie 28 years later, I'm going to be 100% honest and say I actually found it to be a really decent film. First, I really enjoyed it from a visual perspective, as I was initially put off by an article where it was revealed that they filmed this entire movie with iPhones, and I saw it as a bit gimmicky. Now, I understand to an extent they're paying homage to the very first film where they used cheap camcorders to record the entire film, but I saw that as more of a budgetary issue than anything else, and so when they do it with this, it just came off as a bit gimmicky and experimental. But when actually watching it with that fact, I actually really appreciated the film, and it really looks great but different at the same time to most films, and so I really thought the gimmick paid off. Now, when it comes to the editing, I thought it was beautifully done with so many choppy edits, but when it came to my favourite part, it was the kill shots, which were the most intriguing element of the film. Definitely unexpected, and it reminded me of in Max Payne when you finish off the last bad guy in a room and you slowly see his body fall to the ground, blood pouring out of his body, and done. Dead. I really enjoyed seeing that type of element added in. And speaking of video games, I definitely could see that this film took a lot of inspiration from a vast majority of video games, whether it be Last of Us with the stories and the idea of characters exploring the unknown, but then also with the zombies, because they're evolved, it reminded me of Resident Evil 4, seeing that coming into play where they're not really zombies but they're definitely not human, and that type of intriguingness as well. And then the fact that in hordes reminded me of Left 4 Dead, and the sound effects as well, it all reminded me of those great video games, and it's really cool to see a movie paying a lot of homage or borrowing these great ideas. When it comes to the acting in this film, I will say top-notch acting. Even though there's really only 4 outstanding performances throughout the film, they're great to see, whether it be the kid who played Spike, Jodie Comer, Ralph Fiennes, and Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I always see as a hit or miss type of actor, but for this film he definitely hit. The story itself, I'll be honest, it's not too spectacular. It's quite really a simplistic coming of age story. The first half of this film was seeing a kid going out to the mainland and having his mind expanded by exploring the real world instead of being in his sheltered life, and it's interesting. It's somewhat a male father bonding type of thing, but also learning about the realities of life and the type of people you come along with. And then the second half is after coming out of the delusion that he was in. It's somewhat a childhood with a little bit of hope, only to be crushed with realism towards the end. That's probably the best way to describe the second half, but I'm all for it. What I really loved about this film is the contrast in teachings and lessons given to Spike throughout, as the dad teaches him very necessary but also very bleak black and white teachings of we are the good guys, those who are dead, they have no soul, they are the enemy. Kill them, don't have any compassion or heart. It's quite lacking in empathy, and it's very soldier-like, like, they are the enemy, we are the good guys, that type of mentality. Not knocking it, but at the same time it's very limited. Whilst in the third act we come across a doctor, and we see that he's quite a compassionate person, and he treats all life, living or dead, with the same mentality, that of compassion, which is really beautiful to see. He doesn't actually kill anyone, he's quite a pacifist in that way, and he respects the dead as all life is one, which he says. He has a beautiful quote which I won't say, as I feel like I won't do it justice, but he only kills if he gets the permission of that person. We sadly do see that, and it's really nice to see compassion coming from a person living in quite a dystopian world. Now, going back onto the violence, I will say this film is tremendous with it, very gory indeed, to the point that I'm having to look away, as I'm not the biggest fan of when it comes to zombie gore. Kind of puts me off. Thank you, Shaun of the Dead. But like I mentioned earlier, what I really loved about it is seeing the kill shots where they slow it down, and honestly it's brutal but brilliant to see it at the same time, and it's a element they use which really took me by surprise. It was very unexpected, but at the same time I love the fact they didn't overuse it in the slightest. It's amazing to see, and that's that. Now when it comes to the ending of this film, I'm going to be 100% honest and say it was actually very emotional to see, as we see Spike finally succeed to an extent in his mission, but is given tremendously dark news and he's having to come to reality with death. And we then see, after dealing with that, he then decides to continue on his journey on his own and is saying goodbye to his friends and family on the opposite side because he wants to explore. And it's really quite an emotional element to add to this film, which really did take me by surprise, as I wasn't expecting it when going into this movie. As if I'm being honest, zombie movies never really have a huge emotional weight, so this one really took the cake by a mile. Now, this is the critique section of part of the video, but I don't really want to use that word, as I don't think it is critiques in a sense. It's more just nitpicky or things that I don't understand and maybe need to develop upon further when researching. But here we go. The first part of this film, which I feel was a bit weird, is the editing. As in the first half of this film, we are thrown into this world and a lot of weird shots from old films and just stock footage are placed in with the film as well. And now there's bits of it that have context, but for the majority of it, I was very baffled as to why this was added in the first place, and I'm just very confused as to what I'm seeing and how this is relevant to the film itself. The second critique, which is a spoiler, we're seeing an infected woman giving birth, and for a brief moment it has humanity with Jodie Comer's character before giving birth to a human baby and then turning to her rage-like self. And I just found this to be a very baffling element to throw into the film, as it's not addressed after the fact, and we're left with so many questions yet come out of the film with so much unanswered. Now, this could be me not in understanding the lore of the film, as again, it's been some time since I've seen this franchise, but even still, I'm still quite baffled as to what I was seeing and why this wasn't a big deal to address. But I leave it there. My third thing is we see the character of Spike progress very quickly throughout. We see in the very beginning of this film he's a scared boy going into this world. He's not the particularly greatest at it, and when we see in the second half he's all of a sudden very good at what he is doing, and I just felt like they rushed his progression very much. And then I felt his relationship with his father broke up very quickly, and whilst it is understandable, I do think that again that was something they rushed. The delusion or disillusion of what he saw his dad to be taken away from him after one particular party, understandable. I felt like the rush of it was a bit too quick. I think they could have spent another 10-20 minutes of taking away that disillusion so us, the audience, feel it's a bit more realistic, but then that's just me. Now, the next set of things I'm going to talk about are what took me out of the realism that they were building up. The first one being seeing the mother and son sleeping in this mainland, but then all of a sudden this mother realises a zombie is coming towards her child and kills it very brutally, but then has no recollection of it the following morning. That really took me out of it. Another example is the fact that these two were able to survive for so long with his lack of skills and her mental state. And the third and final one that took me out of it is seeing a big alpha infected being tranquilized. I'm not knocking it, I just found it to be a very odd thing to throw into this particular franchise, but at the same time I was very much intrigued by it, as it's something we've never seen in zombie lore or even any of these type of virus movies that have been coming out, and so I'm really intrigued by how this is going, but it definitely did take me out of the film for quite a bit. Overall, I really did enjoy this film. I think its ending is very weird, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it, but in a very cautionary way, if you know what I mean. I did enjoy the fact this is a standalone film. It's not really necessarily connected through characters from the first two films being in this, and that's what I really enjoy about this franchise. There is none of that. I think it's very gore-fested, which I really enjoy, but it also has that emotional element added in, which I was really unexpected. So for all of that, is it good? I'm going to say it's very good. Rating wise, it's an 8 out of 10. Now when it comes to would I rewatch it, I'm going to be honest and say not really. I think it's a great film, but I'm in no rush to go and watch it again. But if I do decide to go and rewatch all of the franchise, I will definitely not be hesitating to watch this one. Now when it comes to recommendations, of course I recommend the first two. I know the second one isn't as popular because Alex Garland and Danny Boyle are not involved, but I feel like people should still watch it as it is part of this franchise. But yeah, I would recommend the TV show, first season of Last of Us, but the games as well, both of them. I think the games, it's really cool to see these characters exploring the unknown, and that's a great element, and I think the first season of the show really does that part justice, but I don't think the second season does. I would also recommend Resident Evil 4. Again, I think that was a great game where it feels like this, with seeing the zombies being a bit more advanced compared to what you get in the original 3. Left 4 Dead, if you just want to kill hordes of zombies or infected, definitely recommend that. When it comes to movies, I think Danny Boyle, who directed this, is a great director. My favourite of his is Trainspotting, and even though I'm not a big fan of T2 Trainspotting, you can see the evolutionary step from that film to this with the camera work and all that creative experimental type of camera visuals we see, as in T2 Trainspotting. You do get glimpses of it here and there, and I think if anything he's improved and definitely made it his own style in this particular film as well. And then if you're just looking for great zombie products, I would definitely recommend The Walking Dead's first 4 seasons. Again, it's up for argument of what's the best, but those are my personal favourites. And then George A. Romero's zombie films. For me personally, I love Dawn of the Dead and Land of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead, we're seeing the zombie outbreak at its highest peak. It's gone tremendously mad. And then with Land of the Dead, it's years after the outbreak and we're seeing these zombies evolve, quite like how we're seeing them evolve. Those are my recommendations. This has been my review for 28 years later. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed, please like and subscribe, but most importantly, thank you and have a nice day.